They don't want you to know that you can go down and drink a tea that's made over a 12-hour period, drink 4 ounces of the tea, and be permanently reset with your PTSD, your addiction. Your mind can be completely reset, that you can actually birth new brain cells after drinking 4 ounces of a tea down there. They don't want you to know that.
All right. So my guest today is Matt St. John. And let me read a little bit here, Matt, about your bio. He's a naturopathic doctor, herbalist, founder of St. John's Nutrition. It's the nation's only nonprofit national products company and healing center based in Oxford, Alabama. Alongside his wife, Deborah, a registered nurse and research scientist, he's opened over 20 health food stores and clinics across the Southeast. And together they host the television program Truth, Health, and Wellness, dedicated to educating people about health and wellness. Matt is passionate, and you will see in this interview, about researching and applying indigenous medicine practices from all around the world, including those Native Americans, Amazonians, Latin Americans, and Europeans. He frequently travels globally to expand his knowledge and share insights through seminars, articles, radio shows, TV appearances, and now YouTube interviews. In addition to his entrepreneurial and educational endeavors, Matt and Deborah run St. John's Amazon Wellness, and I'm going to mess this name up, Tamshiaku?
You nailed it. You nailed it. Can you believe you nailed it?
Tamshiaku, Peru. And
Yep.
this nonprofit center focuses on healing, education, research, and rescue efforts situated along the Amazon River. Living with his family in the Lookout Mountain region of Alabama, Matt is deeply committed to making health and wellness accessible and understandable to all, irrespective of economic status, race, culture, or beliefs. So, Matt, welcome. Super excited to have you, man. I kind of
Great to be here.
Talk about how we connected, because it's one of those things I think is beautiful about the internet. There's a lot of wasted time on the internet and doom scrolling and just some unbelievably bad consumption that people participate in. But I have, over the years, built some really great relationships, met some really fascinating people, and it's because of the internet, opportunities I would have never had without it, without a doubt. If we can think back to our childhood, 70s, 80s, 90s, before this internet was there, these opportunities didn't exist. But Matt and I, if I remember correctly, we ended up in some of the same Facebook groups. There was just some comments that went back and forth on different posts. But immediately, one of the things, I'm just going to confess this to you, this is the first time Matt and I have talked face to face.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me was like, man, this guy is a nonconformist. Like, he's a free thinker. Like, he's willing to challenge the norm. That's kind of the impression I got. Am I accurate on that at all?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And then that's exactly what I saw with you. And I don't even remember which board it was. I remember thinking to myself, well, here's my point. My point was, when I saw you, I heard your words, I went and kind of trolled your page a little bit, and I said, this guy cares, number one, about the truth. That's what I noticed, the truth. So you're in a quest for the truth. So as I find people who are in a quest for the truth and doing what we do, being from the background, spiritual background that we're from, which is very traditional in most people's eyes, and then doing things like, hanging out with shaman, in the jungle, brings about a lot of contradictions in most people's eyes. But what I've noticed is, if people are seeking truth, I mean, really the truth, then we all end up coming together. Everyone who's seeking that true truth. And so I feel like, and of course, for me, that truth, involves Jesus Christ. It involves the Creator. It involves creation. It's my belief in using creation for our medicine, for our food, for our medicine, for our clothing, for our shelter. And so, there's a big difference in worshiping creation and worshiping a creator. And so when we get into what we're into, we've gotten a lot of heat, as you can imagine, being in northeastern Alabama. Can you imagine what our Christian school, that our kids' Christian school that we taught at for 3 years, what they thought about us writing about ayahuasca and Cambo and so forth. So it's been a wild adventure. I've been in this for 30 years, which I got in right before I turned 16. But it's been such an incredible ride. And the past around 7 years has been the most incredible part of it. And God's just certainly doing, we're just hanging on for dear life, actually.
And I think something else that I've learned, and I'm glad you saw that in me and felt the same way. And when you were saying that, I kind of got goosebumps. But something else I think I picked up from you, but I know to be the truth for people who are truth seekers. I'm open to you changing my mind.
Yeah,
I'm open to it. And that's the thing that, like, I know right now you and I could probably pick some theological topic that we disagree on, and it
sure.
wouldn't harm our relationship. Like, you could have a very firm stance on one thing, and I'd say, no, I don't see it that way, Matt, because I interpret scripture this way. And we would say, yeah, and then we'd laugh about it, and then we'd go serve and help the next people together.
Right,
That's what I love about these type of mindsets.
right.
So anyhow, yeah, so we met online. Then we did, the Facebook friend request, became friends, stuff. And then I saw Matt was doing just something I thought was beautiful, was serving some people in Peru and a village that did not have electricity. And so I ended up purchasing one of the units that they had that they were submitting down there. Because again, always looking for an opportunity to serve when I find somebody I think is genuine, when I find somebody I think has integrity. I love serving. And again, this is another one of those stories. Last year, I'll just give you a quick one for you guys listening. I had worked in K through 12 food service for a while out west. And I went to my daughter's school and I said, just out of curiosity, do you have kids here who cannot afford lunch? Like, they don't show up with any money on the books, they don't pack or anything. She said, yeah. And I said, what do they do for those kids? And she said, we hand them a peanut butter jelly sandwich in a brown paper bag. I said, but all the other kids know when they see that bag. And she said, yeah,
Yeah.
but we got to feed them. That's kind of the option we've chosen. I said, how many kids are there? And she gave me, it was like 12. And so I did the math. We have this many days of school left, 12 kids times the price of lunch, a couple dollars. And I went on my Instagram and Facebook, made a post, and I had a lady who I had taken one of her business courses, Shauna, never talked, just follow each other. I took her one course. She sent several $100s to help cover kids' lunches. And within a week, I went down there with a check, a money order, for pay off 12 kids' lunches for the entire year at this school, so they wouldn't have to have those brown bags handed to them, and had lunch, and took pressure off their parents. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. You never know.
But it's a beautiful thing from the internet, right? These people,
absolutely. It wouldn't have happened had you not been able to have gotten outside of your box. And so many of us, I mean, especially northeastern Alabama, who's going to hear about Matt St. John? Who's going to hear anything I have to say in northeastern Alabama, unless you have the tool and the resources of the internet? But there's a lot of evil that comes along with social media. There's a lot of bad that comes along with it. And I'm probably am hindered and wasted some time that I shouldn't waste on social media and so forth. But at the same time, we know that we have a message. We know that we have a very important message. And just like with you, though, see, you didn't just cut us a check or send us a Cash App deposit or whatever. You waited and you watched, and you actually saw us physically in the jungle, delivering these systems to people, and you thought, hey, I want in on this. This is good stuff. And so that's how awesome it is. And that's really, we find that there are a lot of people who support us, even sometimes in spite of us. They'd rather just give it straight to the kids, but they know that we're feet on the ground. And what's interesting too is when we went to the city of Iquitos is the largest city in the world that has no roads going to it or coming from it. It's landlocked. It's land and river logged. You can only get there via the Amazon River or by plane. And yet they say there's around 500,000 people. There are actually 800,000 people. Most are, of course, undocumented. They're not on the census. The 30% of the population is under 8 years old. And child trafficking is worse there than anywhere except for Thailand. The government has almost just completely turned its back on Iquitos. For a little historical reference, Iquitos was formed during the rubber boom. When we started making tires for cars, we initially used natural rubber. Natural rubber is very expensive and it's very time consuming. And they found the rubber trees in the Amazon. So the Spaniards and the English came to the Amazon. They built a huge, magnificent city, put a mission there first. And so they indoctrinated the people, built a big, big city. Made it a law that you had to have coca available for the employees at the stores. So they revved their employees up on coca. And then throughout the entire process, they started exploiting the indigenous people, putting them basically into slavery. And then as soon as the rubber boom began, there's all kind of stories. There's a movie called The Fitzcarraldo, which is really cool. But there's basically they stole the seeds. They took seeds from the Amazon. They started growing the rubber trees in China cheaper, using even cheaper labor. And eventually they developed synthetic rubber. And so as soon as synthetic rubber was created, Iquitos died. And so as soon as, the Spaniards, the gringos, everybody pulled out. And as soon as they pulled out, they left basically a deteriorating city that's just dying. It's just literally been dying in a lot of ways. But then again, it's still the central port of trade for all things Amazonian. So we were attracted to going there simply to research the plant medicine. And the plant medicine is absolutely phenomenal. There's nothing like the plant medicine in the Amazon region. Of course, I've been, using Amazonian medicine for a long time. We get it in herbs, but we never had access to just straight up, the medicine itself. And then once we started going so many times, they offered us land. They've watched us interacting with a squirrel monkey named Martine, and this little old lady who was 85 years old decided, based on our interaction with wildlife, there was a parakeet that fell asleep as I was petting it to begin with, which was pretty wild. And then after the parakeet fell asleep in my hand, I have a video of that. That was amazing, petting the thing with my finger. And then this monkey just takes to us. And then after we left, this lady said, go talk to those gringos and tell them that we need to talk to them about possibly getting our selling them our land. And I didn't even know you could buy land in Peru. I didn't know that Americans could buy land, and but we did. It was quite a project. It was quite a spooky project in a lot of ways. There's a long story behind it, but we went down and basically were able to be blessed with 14 acres right on the Amazon River, and it's turned into a retreat center, and it's just gone crazy. It's really wild. So we didn't plan on that happening, and we've only been going down for less than 2 years.
Wow. So I want to get into the retreat center, but before we get too far ahead, maybe it's important that if you want to share a little bit about how you got into this, what your path has been, and why you got into this fascination you have with herbs and plant medicine, et cetera.
Well, I was a typical, kid. Matter of fact, well, maybe I was a little atypical because my dad was a grocery store manager. My dad was a grocery store manager with a big chain grocery store and a supervisor. So can you imagine the pantry at the grocery store owner's or the grocery store manager's house? So basically, here's what happens. Each time that, we'd have like my dad would have a rep come in, or a new rep, or the Coke guy, or the Pepsi guy, or the Golden Flake guy, or the Frito-Lay guy. All these salespeople compete to basically give these managers free product, to kind of win their favor. So my dad, he never asked for anything, and he never really, made a point to, try to have anything. But he always, every time he came home, so about 7 p.m., the guy's got like 6 boxes of, Frito-Lay, Golden Flake, all these different, yummy things, drinks and everything. Good thing my dad didn't drink because he would have had a lot of beer at the house for free. So basically, we'd use a bag of Doritos as an extra topping for a pizza. We'd crush up a bag of Doritos and pour it on top of the pizza, and we were always, just kids would come over to my house. I had friends that weren't really my friends; they just knew that they could get free snacks, so they'd come over. And so I was overweight. By the time right before I was 16 years old, I was overweight. I had allergy problems. I had digestive issues, just traditional stuff that kids are, Gen X kids. I grew up on a diet of Fruity Pebbles, and my parents thought that letting me watch Saturday morning cartoons and going to public school would make me a smart kid, and all these different things. So I learned my diet through that way. And so I had no idea about nutrition. I was out of shape, unhealthy, and I met a little old man in the woods named Tommy Bass. I'd heard about an herbalist who lived just about 5 miles from my school, where I went to high school, and he had been featured on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. And this guy had he's had 5 books written about him, yet he had 1 day of formal education, and it was the day that he taught at Duke University. This guy's he was a subject of a doctoral thesis at Duke University. He's just a kind of a legend. He passed away in 1996, but his name was Tommy Bass. And for about 3 years, I would go out and meet with Tommy. The first time I ever met with him, the sun went down and I didn't even realize it. I had an old 65 Mustang coupe, and it was orange. And I remember I drove up to his house and little shack. He came lumbering out of his shack, and he was impressed that I had an orange car. So of course, I was kind of funny about it. I didn't really want an orange Mustang. That's just the color that I got. It's a classic car. And so I was funny about people calling it orange because it was technically called Poppy Red by Ford. So he says something about my orange car, and I look over and I said, it's not orange, it's Poppy Red. And he looks at my car and kind of looks over and goes, well, feller, where I come from, that's orange. And so that started our whole relationship. And Tommy, once again, he always spoke the truth. And we would talk about really more than herbs quite often. And we'd talk about life, and he really helped me a lot in life and got me started. Then I met people like Daryl Patton and Imogen Robertson and studied under them, and went to Clayton College and got my naturopathic degree. And we just have been busy ever since. So it's been a wild ride for the past 30 years, but it all started at the base of something called Shinbone Ridge in the Appalachian Mountain Range of Alabama with Tommy Bass.
Wow, that's very fascinating. So, talking about health concerns and practices and what you do day to day, my initial gut reaction, and I'm trying to speak for the general public a little bit, I guess, but there's so much information out there now. And my wife and I try to read this stuff, and we want to be healthy and we want to protect our kids. And so, should we eat organic? And then we find this TikTok that says this organic isn't really organic, and this free range isn't free range, and you can't eat this food coloring and Skittles because it gives you cancer. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I feel like you almost just want to throw your hands up and say, there's nothing I can eat. Like, I just have to chomp air. I can't find the truth from anywhere. So,
right.
That being the overwhelm that we're experiencing, could you maybe give us a high level 1, 2, or 3 things like that absolutely should be happening that commonly aren't happening? Like, you would come to my house and say, do not feed that to your child ever again, or make sure they're taking this or doing this. Any high level advice is kind of general.
Well, it's funny. The other day I heard that the most important thing for your health, the most important single thing that the average person can do for their health is, guess what? Flossing. Go figure. But it's true. A lot of people, when they say, so-and-so toothpaste helps 60% better than brushing alone. They're talking about literally brushing with nothing, like brushing your teeth with just a toothbrush. So there's so much that people are doing. Now, for example, mouthwash. Did you know that mouthwash ruins your probiotics in your mouth and actually affects adversely your cardiovascular system because it inhibits your production of nitric oxide? Now that's literally just, swishing around some Listerine. Now you've inhibited your health by just swishing around mouthwash. So, you're supposed to run around with your mouth stinking. I don't know. But what it amounts to is we are a culture that has just completely gotten the wrong idea about hygiene, about bacteria, about what we need to protect our body's defenses, from, and what we shouldn't be concerned with. And so we're dealing with chemicals in our water. We don't have to worry about bacteria and viruses in our water. And then they develop these water filter systems. This isn't one of them, but this is one, that are like, hey, it reduces all the bacteria and the viruses from the water. And you're like, well, that's great. But what's in my water supply is, our PFOAs and PFAs and glyphosate and atrazine. And, those are the things that's in my water supply. That it doesn't filter those. Then what's the point? That's the stuff in your city water, in your tap water. And so it gets to a point where it is overwhelming. I mean, we live in an area that has, let's see, we have Monsanto, which was a 20,000 person lawsuit settlement from Monsanto in Anniston, Alabama. 20,000 people, they won a lawsuit against Monsanto for PCBs. Monsanto was there in Anniston, Alabama. We also had the chemical weapons incinerator at the Anniston Army Depot. We have the chemical weapons training facility at Fort McClellan. And then we have a company called Lee Brass that was been doing dumping for years. And we have, in other words, this particular area is just sick. Very sick, and we've been there for 30 years with one of our retail locations, and it's just amazing the turnaround that people are having just through some simple supplementation. So to keep it simple, what are a few things that people are just kind of missing? I feel like that people are maybe not focusing on enough, and one of those would be probiotics. Getting enough probiotics and friendly bacteria in the system. Probiotics, we don't understand what's the COVID what's the COVID remedy, the right-wing extremist COVID remedy that ivermectin, there we go. Yeah. I joke about that all the time. And there's things like Artemisia that work better than ivermectin, but ivermectin itself, which gained huge popularity during COVID, once again, it's kind of a right-wing thing, but the ivermectin is nothing other than a probiotic. It's an anti-parasitic probiotic discovered by a Japanese researcher that comes from dirt. So it's a dirt probiotic that happens to be anti-parasitic. We learned with COVID-19 that everything that was an anti-parasitic worked. Anything. Black walnut, cloves, wormwood, Artemisia, whatever people took that happened to be a parasite cleanse, an anti-parasitic, worked pretty effectively against COVID-19, which is pretty telling as well. But so the probiotics give you that friendly bacteria that you need, but it also stimulates your T cells, your killer cell activity. So it builds your immune system. Most people think of probiotics as something that helps, your digestion, and that's it. But no, first off, your immune system begins with proper digestion. And if you're not breaking down and assimilating your nutrients, you're not going to be getting what you need anyway. But beyond that, probiotics actually work to defend your system. It increases your T cell activity, your killer cell activity, which helps against cancer and abnormal tissue growth. It helps with your B vitamin production, which helps with stress. And stress actually depletes probiotics. So people who are under a lot of stress need to really look at the probiotic levels. Now, what we recommend normally are human strain probiotics, which are a really unique blend of probiotics that are actually derived from human strain bacteria, and that can make a big difference. Another thing that people are missing out on is they're over medicating. They're taking statin drugs, because their cholesterol is 200 and their physician says, oh, you need to be on a statin drug. No, the pharmaceutical rep that came into your doctor and talked to them and, convinced your doctor that anybody who has a cholesterol 200 or above, 200 is normal. So people who are running around on statins all the time are wondering why they have leg pain, why they can't get out of the bed, why they have inflammation to the point where they can't even move. And 8 times out of 10 or so, it's because they're on a statin drug. They're on these medications that are ruining their muscles, and they don't even understand it. I mean, they're taking, like here in Alabama, you take some robust man who's worked his entire life and he retires at 60 years old, and all of a sudden, the doctor gets hold of him, or the VA gets hold of him, or whoever, and they put him on a statin, and he thinks that because he's retired, he's falling apart and dying. There's people that, they retire for 5 years, they've been on a statin, they think they're dead. We take, they take themselves off of a statin, maybe just even you do something like red yeast rice or a natural alternative, and their lives are changed, 5 years after they thought that they were dying, falling apart. So that's a major thing too, are people who are getting medicated for no reason in many cases.
Okay, I think that was over medicated, probiotics.
Yeah, over medication, probiotics. The other thing would be, if you're really wanting a foundation of good health, having something available, like we have a formula called P77 that's just a very amazing formula. It started out with carvacrol from the oregano oil, but you use oregano oil for the carvacrol, the artemisia, the beta pinene. That formula is something that for people who are dealing with any type of colds, flu, virus, any virus whatsoever, we have clinicals out the wazoo on the ingredients in this formula, and we've had over 700,000 bottles that have left us. We've given a money back guarantee. We said basically this: if you take this product and get COVID-19, then we'll give your money back. We also said that if you take this product and if you for COVID-19 and it doesn't work, we'll give your money back. We've never issued a refund out of 700,000 bottles of our P77, and it's been just incredible. And once again, it's a God-inspired formula. I think we actually came up with the formula while it was before we went down to the Amazon. But it's just one of those testimonies that we just have so many people who are dealing with issues because of, whether it be a stomach virus, whether it be a norovirus, whether it be a COVID or the influenza or strep throat. There's so much going around right now. This little formula works so well that it's just sort of a staple. And so that's one of the things that we recommend a lot of people have on hand.
Have on hand for when you get sick, but not something you take daily to preventative.
Not normally. Then you get over into your vitamin C's, your vitamin D3. Those are pretty important as far as, especially, as you're dealing with, a lot of viral issues going around and that sort of thing. It's, we're into springtime right now. Allergies are a big problem. That's, the histamine levels. Once again, your probiotics in your body will regulate your histamine levels or help regulate your histamine level. So having balanced probiotics will actually help your allergies and your sinuses. So that's a good thing this time of year to consider is, get on a probiotic even just for your sinus and allergy issues. We have a product called Allercare that's been around for like 25 years. It's really, really good. And it's actually the original formula. I remember Tommy Bass, he gave me a handful of an old Nature Sunshine product because I was having sinus problems. The only thing I could ever take were Actifed, that my parents would give me. And Actifed would make me, feel like I was going to die, just very groggy, very tired and lethargic. And so I took this formula that Tommy had that he had given me. It was, like I said, old Nature Sunshine formula called SN-X. And I took that formula. I remember being on a bridge, and out loud when I was on that bridge, I said it because my nose, I always had one nostril running and one nostril stopped up, and they would alternate. So I never know which one to blow and which one to not blow. But it was wild because at one moment, my sinuses just popped open, and there it was. And I actually said out loud, just me and God, wow, these herbs actually work. This is amazing. And then I went home and told my parents that's what I plan to do with the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So I'm going to get selfish. This is the selfish part of the interview. And you really struck a chord with me because the first thing I want to talk about is this statin thing. So my cholesterol got high. It's been on a downward trend, but not fast enough for the doctor. They pushed me. I resisted. For a year, we went back and forth. And I said, I'm not going on the statin. The reason I didn't want to is my stepfather was on it, and he got to the place he couldn't brush his hair. His muscles hurt so bad. And I said, I'm not doing that. So they said, we've got a wide variety of different options for you. If that one caused that, we could switch it up. And then they also advised me to take CoQ10 to help counter that effect.
Right.
So I ended up folding. I went on the beginning of this year statin. I started on one CoQ10 a day, but I still started feeling like on my sides and different places in my arms that almost like I'd been in bed for too long, that tenderness you get. And
Yeah.
So I doubled the CoQ10, and it only took me up to the recommended daily. But I took 2 instead of 1, spread them out in the day, kind of rid me of the pain. But I'm upset that I had to get on it. And the reason I feel pressured is because if I don't take their advice at some point, there's this fear the insurance is going to drop me.
Right. And that is a concern.
Yeah.
The thing with the statin, the red yeast rice was being developed in China. It was being researched by a drug company there. The information got leaked out that it was a natural supplement that they were using. They were trying to get a patent before they even had a chemical structure that was different than the natural, which was pretty funny. So the American supplement companies found out about this red yeast rice that was being researched, and all of a sudden the supplement companies in the United States just started putting the stuff out. Which really riled up the drug companies because basically it was a legal, non-prescription statin that wasn't causing the side effects that the statins were causing. And so red yeast rice has gained a lot of popularity. We do add coenzyme Q10 even to red yeast rice. But here's the main thing: people are not dying of cardiovascular disease because of high cholesterol. They're dying of cardiovascular disease because of inflammation. A good friend of mine, Jeffrey Johnson, he's a cardiologist at UT Medical Center up in Tennessee. He was one of the first. I was doing a radio show one time, and they have, on the radio, they have a 7-second buzzer, or like a little button. And what this button does is if you're on the radio and you hit this button, it goes back in time 7 seconds because the radio's actually, behind 7 seconds. Right, yeah. So it'll cut the radio out in case you have someone just start cussing or, pitching a fit on the radio. And so I hear from the DJ on the boards, he puts a sign up that says, you've got a medical doctor who's calling into my weekly health talk, and he wants to talk. And of course I was sort of funny. I'm like, okay, I've got my hand on the button because figuring he's going to bawl me out or something. And it was actually Jeff Johnson. He was talking about how he agreed with what I'd been saying for the past several weeks or months. It was this station up in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we actually, he was talking about how inflammation is the key. That's what's harming our cardiovascular system. And there are things like curcumin or turmeric, you have in the spice rack, that in capsule form can be extremely effective to help reduce inflammation. And then also, you have your coenzyme Q10, which can help a lot. But here's been, in the past few years, to me, the coolest breakthrough in supplementations for cardiovascular disorders are the beetroot concentrates. Beetroot, now I don't like beets. Personally, I don't like to taste them. To me, it's a combination of dirt and blood. But beets are incredible. They in the 90s, there was something discovered called nitric oxide. Now, it's not nitrous oxide like you'd use to make a car go faster, but nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. It opens up our blood vessels and our veins, and it helps our arteries to open up and to dilate. It was actually discovered through sports nutrition, through bodybuilders. Pre-workout stimulants would have L-arginine, L-ornithine, and beetroot concentrate, which would increase the pump. So when people would work out, they get a bigger pump, and they would feel more volume in their muscles. Well, the volume was blood flow. Well, it's kind of a no-brainer that if you can do the same thing and increase the blood flow in a normal, healthy individual, or even a normal, unhealthy individual, then you can improve their cardiovascular and their entire system. So what happened, they figured out that this is kind of cool. Our mouth has probiotics. Once again, remember, if you use mouthwash, you can wipe out your probiotics and inhibit your nitric oxide levels. So taking beetroot in the morning, especially if you haven't brushed your teeth or you haven't had any food yet, and drinking the beetroot juice, it comes in contact with your saliva, your probiotics in your saliva in your mouth, and immediately signals your body and increases your nitric oxide level, which is a gas, which is interesting, it's a healthy gas. And this nitric oxide increase will immediately reduce blood pressure or regulate blood pressure. And over time, it'll completely eradicate cholesterol issues for most people. So it's wild, because what are you doing really? Well, you're opening up your arteries and your veins. You're helping your veins and your arteries to flow better, and you're helping also with arterial plaque over time to help reduce it. And so that, once again, you're talking about beets, drinking beetroot juice. We have a product called Cardio 24/7 that's a beetroot arginine ornithine combination, but people take it in the morning, and it's a really amazing combination. It has hawthorn and coenzyme Q10 also. But there's something else, Scott, that I meant to mention. My wife actually sort of pointed over at it. There's something we've been researching a lot lately too that I feel is extremely important for people who are dealing with they're just sort of wanting to get out of the vicious cycle of poor health, and it actually is similar to what you just did. That's water. Healthy, good, clean water. And that's extremely important. It's important in our endeavors down in the Amazon, and it's important here in the United States. And the problem that they have in the Amazon and down in the Amazon, once again, it's viruses and bacterium in their water. They need water filters to make sure that they don't get noroviruses and that sort of thing. Well, the problem here in the United States is more along the lines of chlorine, fluoride, which of course, calcifies the pineal gland. We know that's true, which is interesting too, because we actually have a decalcification formula. We have a tamarind extract formula called brain fog that we were using. We originally developed it for COVID brain fog, but brain fog is really good at helping to lower and reduce the inflammation of the cerebrospinal fluid and to help with neuroinflammation. So it's really wild. We have so many things right now that are that we're seeing, but with the water in the United States, we have toxic water. I mean, we get these testers. Have you heard of the zero water filters?
Yeah.
There's a water company called Zero Water, and basically what they're doing is they're making like cheap Berkeys. I call them cheap Berkeys. A Berkey's like $600 to get one. It's a reverse osmosis water filter that'll take out the chemicals, and they actually will take out the glyphosate and the atrazine and all that. Well, Zero Water came out with an ingenious idea. They said, let's see how cheap we can build a really good water filter for, and let's sell them with actual water testers. So they have these digital water testers where you take and you can actually put, in your tap water, in the bottled water, and every water you're drinking, this tester and actually learn about your water quality. Well, we started learning about the water quality in our area, and some in the waters that we were even buying, like at our health food store. It blew us away. And so the zero water actually gets it down to zero. I mean zero parts per million of any additives, any heavy metals, etc. Now you do probably need to consider a trace mineral formula if you're going to be getting your water completely wiped out as far as all your heavy metals. But it's good to use clean water, and the longer that you drink. For example, my father, he's in his 80s. They don't eat right. They're hard-headed. Basically, they stay alive via our pills that we give them. But we did switch his water, and so they were using like most people, the water filter that is in the refrigerator. And so we tested it, and it actually there were more parts per million coming out of their refrigerator water filter than there was coming out of the tap somehow. So yeah, go figure. So we got them a zero water filter. Well, my dad's kidney function, which he's had bad kidneys since he was born. Basically, he was 17 years old. He had to have kidney stone surgery, decades and decades ago, back when they used to cut you open. And so he's had bad kidneys his whole life. Thankfully, through glandulars and through herbs, we've been able to keep his kidney function and keep him off of dialysis, even in his 80s. But once again, that's his weak spot, is his kidneys. Well, once he started with healthy water, once he started getting really good water, we use a Lark water filter here. That's what we use personally, and that's what we take to the Amazon. It's what we use in the United States also. But his kidney function improved 5 points just after 1 month of drinking the zero water. And once again, I don't even advocate. This company means nothing to me. In other words, I like what they built, but they sell them and market them mainly through Target, which is not my favorite, obviously, chain of retailers. But still, it's a good product. The fit and finish is not the greatest, and you do have to replace the filters about every month to keep it down to zero. But hey, it's saving some lives, I believe.
Wow, so much there. On the beetroot, you said drinking the juice in the morning before you brush your teeth or eat or anything, so it mixes with the saliva. Is that the best way, or would beetroot supplement or pill work as well?
Well, the problem with the pill, if you take it in the pill form, it's going to bypass your stomach. I mean, bypass your saliva. It's going to bypass your saliva, your probiotics. You'll get some benefit, but you're not going to get the benefit as if it were in your mouth. That's the reason the powdered formulas and the liquid formulas work best.
Okay, liquid formula. All right, powder. Thyroid. That seems to be another very common thing for people, especially start getting in your 50s and older. I know a lot of people on thyroid medicine. Any supplement recommendations there?
Absolutely. The thyroid gland is a tiny little gland, and it's very important. It works with your cardiovascular system. It works with your metabolism in every single way. We have a horrible, horrible influx of thyroid disease in our particular region. Once again, courtesy of Monsanto, courtesy of the chemical weapons, courtesy of the training facilities and all these different things that we have in our region. We have a ton of autoimmune thyroid diseases, a lot of goiters, a lot of issues with people having sometimes elevated thyroid, but normally it's hypothyroid. The problem is when you go to get a thyroid test, they'll normally just test your TSH. They won't test your T3 and your T4. And so, and then what's crazy is as soon as they see that your TSH, they'll say, "Oh, your TSH is high. You're trying to, your thyroid's trying too hard to produce thyroid. We're going to put you on Synthroid," which is garbage. Synthroid is T4. Your body will not convert T4 into T3, yet it will convert T3 into T4. There's an old drug called Cytomel that was a much more impressive medication for the thyroid, but it's not as popular as Synthroid. Synthroid is the one that's marketed. So people are running and they're getting on the Synthroid. The Synthroid will get their T4 level up, but their T3 level is still down. And so they'll feel terrible. They feel a little better because they have the T4, but they never feel right. Now, the other alternative is to go out and find a doctor who will actually prescribe Armour Thyroid. Armour Thyroid is the original thyroid. I remember I actually found the original book that I was able to buy on the thyroid gland that Armour Thyroid produced. Of course, they were a drug company even back then. But thyroid problems have been a given since especially since westward expansion. That's the reason we have iodized salt. Because they didn't have enough iodine out west, and they started adding iodine to the salt to help with the thyroid gland. People are having thyroid issues out west because of a deficiency of iodine. Normally, the reason people have thyroid issues here is because of chemical toxicity and environmental issues. The good thing is this: there's help. we have a product called Thyroid Support. It's a really good formula that uses L-tyrosine, and it has all of your different various sources of iodine that you can pretty well get. About 4 different sources of iodine along with the L-tyrosine. But then we have something else that we just brought in about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago, and we've been recommending and trying to find glandular thyroid for a long time. We finally found a supplier who had a quality glandular thyroid. Now that is basically the same thing as Armour Thyroid. Armour Thyroid is the freeze-dried thyroid gland from a pig. Now, what we use is freeze-dried thyroid glands from cattle. Now, whether or not they have active T3 and T4 hormones in them, I know that basically the drug boys and the government doesn't like for that to occur. Of course, they don't like that. But at the same time, you can go get a cattle rancher to sell you, 10 dehydrated, thyroids from their cattle, and you can eat that all you want. So it's hard for them to regulate it. So basically, we have this incredible raw thyroid extract now that's balancing people's thyroids left and right. Even if they're on Synthroid, it doesn't contraindicate. So it's really been a blessing to have that tool, because there's so many people that it's like the missing link of metabolism. There'll be people, they'll be doing everything right. They're eating everything right. They're exercising exactly how they're supposed to exercise. They cannot lose the last 10 pounds, 20 pounds of fat that they have. They just can't do it. That's the thyroid. Your thyroid works with your brain, it works with your heart, it works with your pancreas, and so we need it to all this to work together. But when there's a problem in your body, especially an autoimmune issue, your thyroid gland, being so small, is the most susceptible gland in your body to getting diseased. It's normally the first problem that you'll see.
So if you're on the synthetic thyroid medicine from your doctor, you can still take the thyroid support product or any of the other product. It's not going to raise or
right. It won't contraindicate. And the good thing is, and the good thing that in this case would be that the medication that you're most likely taking is T4 if you're taking a medication. So the T4 won't contraindicate with the raw thyroid at all.
Man, so you're getting in my pocket. I can already tell I'm making a big purchase from that. But so how do you guys work business wise? I mean, so somebody watching this and they're making sense, but they're like, well, I'm not friends with Matt like Scott is. Can they just call the store and then they talk to you about what's going on? You guys make recommendations?
Yeah, we've been at the same location. We've done all kind of things around the location. We've been at the same location around 30 years in Oxford, Alabama. And so they can call us and we'll put the number up, but it's 256-835-9588. Also on social media. I'm not a huge social media fan, but well, you wouldn't think by looking at my profile anyway. I'm always on there, but even with social media as it is, it's a really good tool to reach other people. And social media has helped us a lot. So St. John's Nutrition, if they'll go to our page on St. John's Nutrition on social media and just like our page, another thing they can do is communicate with us. I think a lot of people are surprised that we actually communicate with people, after hours and everything else. I'll catch myself at midnight, answering questions and that sort of thing. And people are like, well, I expected you to answer me in the morning. I'm like, well, I'm up right now. But we have 2 or 3 people that watch that, and it's just really important to us to be there for people. I know that there's nothing more frustrating than having a family care physician or having someone that you're paying, or at least your insurance is paying good money to, for help, and you never get to talk to them. And then when you do get to talk to them, they spend 15 minutes, humoring you. And then they write you some prescription because they feel like they have to. It's just, that's not the way healthcare should be. You need health partners. We need people to partner with us in our health and to be there for us when we need them.
Absolutely. So we're kind of running out of time. I want to be respectful of your time, but there's still some stuff I didn't get to. So maybe we kind of just touch on the highlights of it. On your YouTube channel, I did go and watch one of the videos. It was Life-Changing Medicines of the Amazon. And it was one of the things that kind of brought us together on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I found the video fascinating. So I suggest everybody go watch it. I can link to it in the show notes here. But I definitely wanted to make sure I asked you about, first of all, Rapé. Now we speak Portuguese in my house, so it's Rapé here.
Okay.
But for the Rapé, I just got hip to it maybe like 6 months ago, and actually thought about ordering some and having it shipped to the house, etc. But can you tell us a little bit about what it is, and what it's supposed to help with? Or
Well, yeah, and you can't really talk about Rapé without discussing Mapacho. And Mapacho is a very special tobacco. Mapacho is Nicotiana rustica. Mapacho or Nicotiana rustica is a very, very strong tobacco. It's 10 times stronger when it comes to, your actual nicotine content than regular Virginia tobacco. Now, Virginia tobacco is used very seldom used medicinally. Only the Cherokee and a few others would use tobacco medicinally, but in Southern America and South America, it's a totally different situation. Mapacho, there's probably 10 clinicals on Mapacho being used for things like cancer and for people who are having withdrawal symptoms from other things. It's just amazing. And when you look at Mapacho and then you think about how strong it is, yet you go down to South America and you find that people aren't hooked on it. Mapacho is used very respectfully. It's not something that you see people just standing around on the street corners puffing on. It's more of a therapeutic tobacco. So Rapé uses Mapacho as a base. Now, actually, my wife handed me this. This is from Martin. This is okay. So this is actually a bottle of Rapé. Let me go up here. There we go. And this is how they basically do it. They'll take the Rapé, or they take the Mapacho, and if you can see, there's a powder in here. And they'll sell this. Now, what you use to apply this is this little pipe right here. And this pipe, of course, one end is put in the individual who's receiving the Rapé's nose, and the other end is blown into by a shaman or someone who's knows how to use Rapé. That's the application, straight up the nose. It's a snuff. And but you can use a lot of things in with the Mapacho. Now, you'll feel a stimulative effect. Normally, if you do just regular Rapé or Mapacho, you'll feel energy. You'll have first off, your head will tingle. I remember actually the first time that I ever did Rapé was immediately after meeting the mayor of Belen in Iquitos. He was just, there were people with drums and trumpets. And so and I met the mayor and I talked to him. He spoke pretty good English. He was very excited because we were gringos from the United States and there are virtually none in Belen that you find. And so we had a neat conversation. Well, then I'm sitting down and this shaman's going to blow Rapé up my nose. And so they blow it up my nose. And the second nostril was what really got me. The second nostril was the one that kind of threw me off. And I actually thought that it blew the cap off my head. I was wearing a baseball cap. But I come to find out it was the shaman's wife. She took it off, but put my sunglasses on. I had like a 2-year-old child watching me do the whole thing. I felt terrible. Not really, but it was pretty funny and entertaining. And then I'm thinking, oh no, the mayor's coming. I'm going to sit here and be high or stoned or something. But I wasn't. It was very, I could see better. I had a way more energy. The colors were more vivid. And I just had this extreme feeling of gratitude. I mean, immense feeling of gratitude. And so that was the first time that I tried Rapé, and we've used Rapé 2 or 3 times since then. It can be mixed with a lot of different things. They'll even mix chacruna, which contains DMT, or they'll use the ayahuasca or the Banisteriopsis caapi vine. They'll mix it with several different things to get different effects for people.
Is there a way to self-administer it? Because you said the shaman blew into it.
Yeah, you can. I would probably want somebody else to do it, though. I made the shaman at least shake my hand before he did it, since we were going to do something so intimate. Man, we haven't even shaken hands yet, and you're about to blow stuff up my nose. But you can self-administer it. Matter of fact, I could probably show you how, but I don't know that I would. You'd have to put this end in your mouth and this end up your nose at the same time, and I'd rather just not do that on camera. But
right.
yeah, you could do it. You could do it pretty easy, but it is normally better to have someone with you.
Does the pipe have a particular name? Do you know?
I don't think so. They call it a Rapé pipe,
Okay,
or a Rapé pipe. Rapé. There's a term for it that they use. They use all kind of different forms, different materials, and this one's just a little wooden one that's never been used.
So ceremonially or health wise or anything, it made you feel kind of alive and attuned in and grateful. But is there any other recommendations why people do it?
It depends on the individual. I mean, there's people use it for weight loss. I mean, people use it for sinus problems, respiratory issues, to completely clear out the sinuses, which, wow, it will. And also just for the effects, mentally. I think most of the effects with Rapé are mental. which is interesting too, because we have Sananga too, which you would think would be 100% about the eyes. And it's also about about helping with mental clarity. Seems like everything, by the way, in Peru and Amazonian medicine, it always has to hurt, be uncomfortable, stink, or or something, along those lines for it to be Amazonian medicine. Like everything seems like it's trying to kill you in the Amazon, even the medicine sometimes.
Yeah. No pain, no gain, right?
Exactly.
Now the Sananga, is that the thing I heard you say that they put drops in people's eyes and it helps with the
Oh,
vision?
wow. Sananga is awesome. See, Rapé is technically legal in the United States, and so is Sananga. Sananga is legal in the United States, even though it does have an active constituent called ibogaine. Ibogaine, which is normally
Really?
found in the iboga tree. Yeah, we've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's a serious entheogenic. Well, you get ibogaine when using Sananga. And we have people who come to our clinic and they'll sit down and of course after I have them sign a disclaimer, because it is very, very painful. Sananga hurts for around 5 to 10 minutes for most normal individuals. It'll give you an intense eye pain, and I'm talking whatever eye pain that you've had. It's comparable to whatever eye pain you've had. But it goes away. And when people use Sananga on a regular basis, we have a testimonial on St. John's on one of the I don't know, either Google or one of the healthcare websites, that the individual, he had a 400% increase in his vision. He was slated for cataract surgery, and he didn't have to have cataract surgery, and he doesn't have to use his glasses at night at all to drive. And he was unable to drive at night. He's a musician, which a musician unable to drive at night is kind of a bad thing. And so he was now he's had not he didn't have to have cataract surgery. His vision has increased 400%, and he can now drive at night without glasses. And that's off of an individual who used it for about 3 months, once a week for 3 months. Sananga, we've used Sananga. It's incredible. It does help pretty much anyone. I mean, they've clinicals that show effectiveness against macular degeneration, against cataracts, against a lot of eye issues. But Sananga is a blessing. And what's really cool about Sananga also is that, once again, when you take it, you have this semi-euphoric, very blessed, appreciative. You just feel happier. The individual that I'm talking about, his wife began coming to have the Sananga applied, and then we found out that she didn't even have vision problems. She was just doing it to help with her attitude. She said it made her happy and smile a lot, which is kind of funny because we watched as her entire personality more or less changed over about 2 months, from being very stern and serious to being a very happy-go-lucky, happy woman. And once again, her husband's really cool. The guy wears a leather kilt half the time that he comes in. So if you can imagine a guy with hair, a beard down to here and hair down to his back in Alabama, walking in with a leather kilt, that's quite a sight. He's a cool dude. But they've really, I mean, and talk about his eye doctor. His eye doctor doesn't even know what to think.
So you said they came to you for application. So it's not like a supplement you can buy and do eye drops or take it, or you should have somebody.
Yeah, well, we bring back. It's weird with in Iquitos with a natural medicine from Iquitos or from the Amazon. Basically, if United States Customs will destroy every single bit that comes into the United States through customs. If you try to import ayahuasca, of course, they'll destroy it. If you try to import chancapedra, they'll destroy it. If you try to import rapé, they'll destroy it half the time. Cigars, they'll let those go right through, but they don't like the natural medicine. And so what we have to do is we physically go down to Peru every few months. We literally bring these 40-pound bags, full of that are waterproof bags. We bring them down for, with goods for the villages and the kids and all that. And then we bring them back full of, our herbs and our botanicals and everything else. They love us at customs. They're like, what on earth is this? You should have seen them when they were, what was it? Cambo. We haven't got into Cambo, but they saw our Cambo sticks and they really were freaked out last time. But we bring it back physically, so we never really know how much we can bring back. So it's a strange thing, because with Sananga, last time we brought back 8 bottles, 8 bottles of Sananga, which is enough to supply a lot of people. But we might not get 1 bottle back the next trip we go down. So we give the application to the people in house, normally because of the pain, because they need the lights turned down. We pray with them or counsel them during the time and talk to them while they're dealing with the 5 to 10 minutes of experience. And so it's normally better for them to be more like in a session scenario.
Okay. So you guys got to make sure your connecting flights have a long time between them for your conversations with customs.
Oh, you got that. Well, especially when we're flagged. Actually, my wife's passport is flagged. I don't know what she did in a past life, but it's funny because they see her passport and they send us to the hardcore area where they go through everything. And well, the cool part is we always make friends. Here's what happens. They flag us. They see that we've come. They think that we're druggies or something. Then they kind of look at us and like, well, you don't really look like druggies, I don't think. But then when they find out that we're missionaries, well, then half the time, half of them think it's cool that we're missionaries. The other half think, hate missionaries. And, so you get into that situation. So we found that when we come through Fort Lauderdale and through Atlanta, we get a lot of favor once we start talking to the people. And I can tell you some stories off the video that are pretty hilarious, but we've made some friends and really had some cool experiences actually in customs. I prefer last time that we actually got to sail right through. The officer, he was in the Atlanta, and he looked me dead in the eyes, and I looked at him, and I told him, I said, he said, he said, what are you doing down in Iquitos? And I said, well, we have some land down there on the Amazon. And he said, oh, were you just down there chilling? And I looked him dead in the eyes and I stopped him. I said, no, I said, we weren't chilling. I said, we were down there putting solar systems in huts for people. And when he heard that, he just stopped. He stopped looking at his computer. He didn't even take my wife's picture when she came into the country. He just stopped, looked at me dead in the eyes and said, man, that's awesome. Go on. And told us to go ahead. They didn't look at our bags. None of them. So it was, that was really cool. But yeah, you never know. You really don't. The fact is the United States and its handlers do not want natural medicines from the Amazon being available to people here, period. That's a true statement.
Well, the billions spent by pharmaceutical companies lobbying the government, and the stuff that is legal here that's illegal all around the world, but they continue to feed to us is mind-blowing.
Yeah, they don't want it. You almost, in some ways, you can't blame them knowing how corrupt they are. The fact is, ayahuasca by itself could change the lives of probably 40% of Americans for the better, just like that.
Let's go. That's a great transition to go down that thread. But I want to just point out, you said the Ibogaine earlier, and I watched a documentary, kind of ties into what you're saying right now, where they took a opioid addict and he got his last fix so he could make the trip, took him down somewhere down south into a clinic with a nurse there, doctor, the whole nine, gave him Ibogaine. And when this somebody had been addicted for years to heroin and opioids, and the next morning he was freaked out, and they were trying to talk to him, and he said, listen, the thing that's freaking me out the most is I'm not having withdrawals, I'm not having cravings, I'm not dope sick.
Right.
Like he was scared because every morning he's used to
dealing with those side.
And for something to immediately take it from him. And then I think about friends that I've known over the years and I've lost a couple, family and friends, to heroin, that if this was available to them and not treated like this schedule controlled drug, how many lives could be saved and lives could be changed? Just unbelievable.
Well, it is happening, and that's the thing. It's sort of wild how God works. We got our 501c3 after working for 4 years to get it with the government. And what's interesting is it had nothing to do with anything that we're doing now as to why we wanted the 501c3 to begin with. We were going to do a ministry with our kids and with bringing kids into nursing homes, basically homeschool groups, churches, and that sort of thing, bringing kids into nursing homes so that bless everyone. Well, they didn't approve it until COVID-19 was good and going. In other words, COVID-19 hits and the government's like, you know what? Taking kids into nursing homes, that sounds like a great idea. So they approved us, which, obviously that'd be the worst idea in the world would have been to take kids into nursing homes during COVID. Right. So we took our board of directors, got them together and said, hey guys, we're doing something different. The next thing you know, we're in the Amazon and this is all happening. So we put everything under the umbrella of our 501c3. So this is what we're finding is that it's just really amazing because just through the ayahuasca, we learned that ayahuasca is illegal in many, many countries throughout the world. It's obviously not illegal in Peru and Brazil and a couple of other countries where they kind of thrive on it being part of their economy. However, it is illegal technically in the United States unless it's used for ministry purposes. Now, that's a neat little loophole. You can go to Wikipedia, type in, ayahuasca, and on Wikipedia, it'll tell you this information. It'll give you the Supreme Court cases as well. But ayahuasca is legal for someone who is obtaining it through a 501c3 ministry. And you can microdose ayahuasca. The original reason that we wanted to go down to Peru to begin with, the Amazon to begin with, was because I was curious. I had never found information on microdosing ayahuasca. You hear a ton about microdosing psilocybin. You never hear about microdosing ayahuasca. Why? Well, now I know, because you can barely get the stuff. It's extremely difficult to get ayahuasca into the United States, especially. So ayahuasca is interesting because they obviously, the Peruvians want us to come down to Peru, spend about $2,000 to $5,000 to go to a retreat center where you have a few doses of the ayahuasca, and then you pay them all the money and you go home. You have your life changed. No one wants to talk about microdosing, because microdosing would require someone to take it on a regular basis, and when you can't get it, and they can't ship it because every shipment they try to send from Iquitos is blocked, so they can't do it. They can't get it into the United States very easily. So the cool thing is this: we get down there and find out that all of the shaman actually microdose, that they do microdose ayahuasca. And that of course, why would you as a shaman want to tell people, though, that you can microdose it, when you want people to come down and visit you and you get $1,000 for a 4-hour session? So it's a little bit of job security, but at the same time, when we started researching the microdosing and started actually microdosing ourselves, it led us to a lot of really interesting research and a lot of really interesting data. And what we found, I had for example, an RV mechanic, a friend of mine who's an RV mechanic, who was hooked on opiates for, what was it, 20 years, like nearly 20 years. I mean, massive, of course, Suboxone clinic, or, all these different things. He's going to the clinic and doing all this. He asked me finally, he's like, I know that you went down to Peru. Can you give me that stuff down, that helps? And I'm like, okay, you know what? I gave him a mason jar full of ayahuasca. And I told him, I said, take, what was it, 1 capful once a day. And so he started. After 2 weeks, he messaged me back and he said, listen, he said, this stuff is ridiculous. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, not only have I not touched, anything as far as my hydrocodone, I have, I'm quitting I think methadone clinic. I've talked to my counselor, and he's he's convinced I'm on another drug. But I also have quit smoking and quit smoking weed with his wife. So the guy, and on top of that, he'd stopped drinking coffee. He's like, I can't be addicted to anything right now. And I'm like, well, there you go. And that was just after 2 weeks on the ayahuasca. I mean, it's amazing, really. Is it an antidepressant? Not for a lot of people. It's very interesting too. It's some people think that it's going to help them when it's not necessarily exactly what they need. Ayahuasca helps you think. It helps you have control of your thoughts. And that's a good thing for most people. But if someone's dealing with certain types of depression, that's not always the best time for them to be in full control of their thoughts, and sort of becomes more of an obsession type thing. But I tell you, what we've seen with PTSD, withdrawals, addiction, memory enhancement, the mind, just making people seem like they're smarter. Ayahuasca has been incredible. It really has.
I'm fighting back tears just listening to the story about your friend, the RV mechanic. I mean, that's just incredible, beautiful story.
Yeah, he was mad. He's like, I can't even be addicted to coffee. Oh, and hey, seriously, talking about guys with problems with the porn and stuff like that. There's actually a study I read where it was completely eradicating people's porn addictions. That was like lumped into one of the quality of life measurements that they were doing with the ayahuasca. It's amazing. And once again, it's been being used for 2,000 to 3,000 years. We have documented, cases of this stuff being used for thousands of years. Who thought of it? Who knew that that this vine, needed to be chopped, and that you needed to add this shrub and, cook the stuff over a 12-hour period? Who came up with that? It's amazing, really.
Yeah. And we're almost going to have to do a whole episode just on ayahuasca.
Yeah, really.
So many questions concerning that. But since time would not allow that, I do want to make sure that we give you some time a little bit to talk about the retreat in Peru that you guys are putting there, and you've so graciously invited me down to. Hopefully I'm the first YouTuber to come down and cover it, I hope.
That'll be really cool. Yeah. And what's cool too is at the cabin. Okay. So there's no running water and there's no electricity in the village of Santa Ana. But however, we do have running water. We have a water tower, a cistern, that uses rainwater and also creek water. We have 3 creeks that converge where the cabin is, and the cabin is solar. And so we have solar, and we actually have Starlink at the cabin. It's kind of funny. Our internet's better in the Amazon than it is in Alabama, but that's another story. But it's really cool. And we actually have a family, Santos and his family. Santos is a former Peruvian military officer who he's retired, but he was a heavy machine gunner for the Peruvian military, and they live in a hut just above our cabin on the land, and they take care of everything, and they take care of the people that as they come. We have a lady who'll come and prepare meals for people while they're there, 3 meals a day. Her name's Angela. She's wonderful. We have a couple of house monkeys. We have Nero and Nilla, who are brown woolly monkeys that were rescued from the black market animal trade in Belen, and so now they get to live kind of as pets slash free monkeys. They get to do whatever they want. Basically, they're just spoiled monkeys, basically. And of course, we have to make sure that all the villagers know there are our monkeys and not to hunt them or try to mess with them, because they will hunt monkeys out there. And we also have a couple of sloth. The retreat center is actually a 14-acre spread that's right south of Tom Shaku in the village of Santa Ana. And like I said, an 85-year-old lady is the one who sold us this land. She got a good bit of heat for selling us that land, by the way. She told us the last time we were there, she's like, they were convinced that we were going to, start deforesting and, put a cocoa plantation. We didn't, though. And so we've been, there just helping with lunches. And when people come, what we're really wanting is for people just to come. Well, it's like $70 a day, but that's not for us charging to stay there. That covers your transportation from the airport in Iquitos across the city to the port, the boat travel to down the Amazon to the village of Santa Ana. Actually, first you go to Tom Shaku, and you go from a fast boat to a slow boat. And so you literally pull up to the port, and they unload your bags, carry your bags to the cabin. It's about maybe 100 to a 200-yard walk through the property as you get to the cabins. Once you're there, you have all your meals prepared. Once again, if somebody will stay about a week, it comes to about $70 a day to have all your meals prepared. Then you have the option too. You can have ayahuasca. You can have our next door neighbor is a 63-year-old shaman named Jaime, who is a dear friend of ours. And so he's there to do that. We also have Cambo. We can do Cambo, which is the frog medicine from the giant tree frog. And we can do anything like that. Of course, Mapacho and all that. And basically just want people to come down and to get well, and just to be in the Amazon. You can go see the pink dolphin. We can go down the Tahoyo. The area surrounding Santa Ana, the land around it, is the Tom Shaku Preserve, and it is technically, supposedly, the world's most biodiverse land area on the earth. In other words, the most biodiverse land area in the world is right there. So you're on our land. There's 5 types of monkeys. There's a family of tamarins that are kind of cool. They went and saw us off this last time we were leaving. There's jaguar, ocelot, kinkajou. What else? There's pink dolphin, anaconda. We have guides that can take you into the jungle deep. We have people that can just take you on tours around the property. You can interact with the villagers. A lot of times, if you go on Saturday, if you're there on Saturday for lunch, they have a big lunch, and we can, people can come. We'd like for people to bring like an extra 40-pound bag with some clothes and some shoes. Basically, they don't need anything down there much other than just a little bit of help, a little bit of support, a little bit of health care, and some clothes. There's not, there aren't any textile mills in Iquitos where there are no roads, no, tractor trailers and that sort of thing, no trains. So they don't have any textile manufacturers. So that most everything they get from China, and they really appreciate and love American clothing. Sandal, just any summer. Basically, if it's summer clothing in the United States, they wear it all year long. It's just summer all the time there. So
no hoodies, right?
No, no hoodies. Yeah, well, every once in a while in the city of Iquitos on an evening, you might see, they get a little chilly. The women do especially, but no, keep it summery.
Yeah, in Brazil, I can remember it getting in, the 60s, and people were dressed like it was wintertime and yelling at me because I had my kid in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? You're a bad parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It averages 85 to 90 every day. And then it gets down to about 72 to 74 at night, and you can count on that. But also at the cabin, we have solar, and so we have fans. We have it set up to where even gringos can be comfortable.
A little bit of glamping.
Little bit, yeah, yeah. I would call it that. There's some that might not call it that, but it's it's the cabin's nice. It's a sweet. The cabin's so cool because it literally everything about it seems like it's 100 years old. Like it's literally been sitting there for 100 years, and
Yeah,
they use concrete for the foundation and everything. It's a solid cabin, but it's definitely unique for compared to how I guess how we live down or up here in the United States.
that's awesome. Well, man, I'm going to make sure that I have links to all of this stuff that we talked about in the show notes just below here, so everybody can reach out to you guys, make contact, follow you. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to make sure we covered, or way of signing off?
Well, it's really cool. First off, it's just neat talking to you. We've only messaged back and forth and sort of just shared stuff on Facebook back and forth. But I like what you're doing. I like the where you come from and kind of like how you think. And I can tell that a lot of like-minded people would really enjoy hearing about what we have going. So it's just a really cool thing, and it was really neat to be invited to talk to you here and for us to be able to share this with everyone else. And so I just invite anybody to give us a shout. Let us know how we can help them. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're nonprofit, and the money goes back to the Amazon and to the people here, but and just in research too. This is it's a big part of what we do. So we're just having a blast. Honestly, I mean, it's surreal, really, what's been going on since we've been going down, and it's like we can't. We've kind of sold out a few years ago. We kind of, I don't know, went off the grid, so to speak, and this just is further evidence of that, about how God's just watching over us and the people that are once again searching for truth. It's about truth, and being well in this age. We need control of our mind, and we need as much control over our physical body as possible. We're in another chaos year, 2024. It's an election year. It's going to get a little crazy, I think, and so I think the more that we can be in control of this, the better off we all will be. They don't want you to know that you can go down and drink a tea that's made over a 12-hour period, drink 4 ounces of the tea, and be permanently reset with your PTSD, your addiction.